ladies and gentlemen, what is happening? Welcome to week number 21.
Yes.
21 of the Hyper-Conscious Mastermind. As Alan alluded, we're going to do things a little bit differently. You guys are probably, and you don't have to admit it, but you probably are sick of hearing us by now, especially talking about our relationships. So we figured it would be probably far more valuable to have our amazing girlfriends here with you today. So Alan and I will start, I guess, a little bit.
So first, Amy and Tiff want to do the intro. Right?
That's probably the way. Yeah. So just ignore me.
Yeah. Amy and Tiff, take it away.
All right, cool. Well, hi everybody. Welcome to the people who haven't been here. Just something quick. If you have not joined Hyperconscious Nation already on Facebook, make sure you join our private group. It's super supportive. It's really great. We all love it. Also, if you have an Instagram, feel free to put your Instagram handle in the chat so we can all connect with each other. We like talking to all of you guys, and we want all of you guys to network as well. And I will put all of our Instagram handles in the chat for us.
Strong work, Amy.
Strong work.
Of course.
Okay, it's my turn.
Your turn.
So if you guys are looking for a website, whether you have one now that needs to be revamped or you're starting a business and need one, I am doing free 30-minute calls just to help you get started. I will put my link in the chat if you want to get in touch with me.
And Tiff built our website. She is next level.
I did build that website.
Which we thank you for so much, because you only get one chance at a digital first impression.
And I built the first one, and it was garbage.
Oh, it was. You know that statement, done is better than perfect? Not always.
Yes. Are we good to roll?
Good to roll.
All right. So if you guys have listened to Alan and myself, we have very specific systems in place for our relationships, but we can talk about that anytime. We can do an episode on that if you guys want. We wanted to give you the other perspective. We're always talking about our girlfriends all the time. If you've seen me cry, it's because of Taryn. If you've heard Alan talk about his extraordinary relationship, it's because of Emilia. So we thought that, and there's a lot of women in here, right? So that's definitely part of it. But the perspective that they have is going to be much different than ours, because maybe they're not super into the numbers or the tracking. Maybe they have different perspectives and different habits that they bring to the table. So that's the ultimate goal with this. As always, if you have questions, you can either put them in the chat, you can raise your hand. It's a very unique experience, and I want to hammer it.
So the last thing I'll say before we'll let Taryn and Emilia take it away is that there is a digital asset PDF. Amy, did you end up hammering that link into the chat? There's a Dropbox link.
Yep. Hold on. Let me get that.
Okay,
I have it.
Thank you. So I tested it on Kevin's phone and also on my laptop. Although, Natalie, I'm not sure you were able to download it. So if you do have an Android, it might be a challenge. I'm not 100% sure. But that is a PDF that Emilia and I created, basically highlighting sort of the relationship structure that we've helped. We're all right. So the frame here is basically this, right? So first and foremost, an intimate relationship, the purpose of it is to grow. And if the purpose of an intimate relationship is to grow, all of a sudden the challenges that are inevitable are now seen as a good thing. So your intimate partner is going to be a mirror for you, and you're going to learn more about yourself than you ever would otherwise, because this is where the most juice in life comes from in terms of love and fulfillment, but it's also where the most pain comes from. And so when you are growing a lot, though, there's a lot of change, because you can't grow without changing. And when there's a lot of change and you're evolving and growing so much, your lifestyle changes a lot, and it brings a lot of uncertainty and fear. And when fear starts to take over, insecurity comes in, you start creating problems that don't really exist. It's really challenging. And so one of the things that Kevin and I just wanted to say briefly was, okay, having a super growth-oriented relationship is a very, very good thing, but it also will bring challenges. And this is the first relationship that I've ever been in with where I know that the main focus is growth. I've grown more with Emilia in the last 10 months than I have in any of my other prior relationships. And that has come with a lot of challenges that I didn't anticipate, but it's been wonderful. And so Taryn and Emilia, take it away. And everyone, I encourage you all to ask questions to them, because they are absolutely incredible. Seriously, we would not be the men we are today without them. 100%.
And just don't make us look too bad.
Oh my God, you guys. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I'm Emilia. It's nice to meet the whole fam. I've heard so much about you guys. I honestly just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for showing up here today, because hopefully something that we say will help you just have a tremendous relationship, whether that's with yourself or with your intimate partner or your friends, family, everything, because it is all interrelated. And I know Taryn and I are so honored just to be here and like give the female perspective, because we all know that the world needs it. And so just to be here, you guys, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much for being here, sweetheart.
Hi guys, I'm Taryn. For those of you I haven't met, I'm so happy to see you all. Just like Amelia said, I'm so thankful that you guys listen to our boys, and we're excited to talk to you today. Honestly, guys, thought you were gonna describe the check-ins, but you've talked about them before. So I don't know if Amelia, you want to start off this way, but I wanted to say why I feel like the check-ins are important for me. Does that work for you?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll start
Okay.
there, because why is so important.
Cool. I just think check-ins are valuable for Kevin and my relationship, and they can be valuable for yours, because they're a safe, contrived space where you know that you're coming into the meeting, so to speak, with like you're ready to receive feedback, you're ready to give feedback, you're ready to receive love, you're ready to give love. Your partner is you're not necessarily surprised by what your partner is going to say. You've thought about what you want to say. And it gives you an opportunity to really practice some like constructive strategies. Practice kindness, practice appropriate communication, practice some conflict resolution strategies, some when you blank, I feel blank, or shying away from I statements. So talking about it seems, or it feels, or it looks, rather than saying I or you. Also, the story I'm telling myself, if you haven't used that, it's really worked for Kevin and I. So I just think bringing all of those things in a contrived setting where you know that your partner is receptive to you and you're ready to receive whatever your partner has to say is super important.
And I'll build off of that, Taryn, because it is super important, and something that I've been able to raise Alan's awareness with just in our relationship is the fact that like you have a relationship with everything. I really point out the fact that like if there's distance between two things, whether that's implicit or explicit, like there is a relationship. So between Alan and I, there's space, and whether that's in the physical world or in the spiritual world, whatever perspective you want to look at it, there's space there. And how I show up is ultimately my choice in a relationship. And we all know this, a lot is out of our control, but oftentimes we don't realize how much is actually within our own control, because we truly have more control over ourselves than we give ourselves credit for. And so ultimately, I think a lot of people will discredit themselves when they do either want to have a relationship, whether they just want to improve the relationship with themselves, or whether they are already in a magnificent relationship and just want to continue to reach each peak. I don't want to have anyone think that they can't continue to grow and contribute through this relationship, because it really is, like Alan said, a place where you can grow. I have learned, like I can echo what Alan had said, more about myself in the last 10 months than I have in my entire 25 years of living. Like granted, probably when I was in the womb, there were some there, put Mozart on and whatnot, but really seriously, it's so important to be able to grow. And I think that my experience with the check-ins, and maybe we'll go into a little bit more of the structure later if we do have time. However, but I think it's important to say, like, I've been in really crappy relationships, and I don't want to say that because of them, but I say that because I'm taking ownership of how I showed up in the world. And not too many people think about how they've showed up in relationships and blame the external results on other people, on other situations, and instead of actually taking responsibility for that. But I never really had a system because I never really thought that that was necessary. You don't think it's necessary to actually put work into relationships, which is so crazy because like, how can you expect to actually get anywhere if you don't take conscious action and make conscious choice towards it? So for me, I've worked with so many different people on so many different levels, like whether they're young, whether they're old, just friends, family in different communities, LGBT, multicultural, like elderly human beings, like in their relationships. And we fail to realize like time is so precious, and it's truly up to you how you choose to spend and invest it. And so that's why I think it's really important to pay attention to who's around you, who you're engaging with, who you have relationships with, and likewise, what systems you set up in place in order to ensure that those are constantly growing with you and for you, so that you can, in Alan's post, like he said, flourish, because that's truly, what we all have, infinite potential. And if you're not choosing to try to reach that every day, it's really challenging because there is no system to help ensure that. So I would say for me, that's probably the biggest exciting part of the check-ins, always growing, continuous growth.
And for us, Kevin and I keep adding to ours, like if things come up, or if I, the other day I sent him like, hey, I saw these questions. I really want to be able to ask you them every week. We should add them to our check-in. And it just builds on top of your success when you're saying, for example, like, what can I do to better understand you every single week? Like, how are you not, you're going to develop such a connection with your partner and grow with them and really continue to learn them. If you're not growing with your partner, your relationship is dying. So like really just have that, zest for continuing to learn your partner. They're going to change, you're going to change, and hopefully your morals and values are aligned and you're growing in the same parallel direction. Yeah.
I was going to say, like, raise your hand if you're in a relationship, because right now I'm going to divide us and then I'll bring us all back together because that's what's fun. Okay. So
thanks, Kev.
Okay.
2 for me.
And now raise your hand if you're single. Okay, awesome. So we have a beautiful, diverse, and raise your hand if you've chosen what situation you're in right now. Interesting. We have some confused looks for those who are actually listening. Why I say that is because it's very interesting when you ask that follow-up question, because not everyone is consciously choosing that relationship that they're in every single day. And that's what I love about my relationship with Alan. And I'm not here to brag, you guys. I'm just really here to show you what's possible. It's the fact that you can choose every single day where you are and who's in your life. And that's what's been super important for me to realize for myself, because so many times I would just be appeasing straight up, like who is in my life and who I'm in a relationship with. I was in an 8-year relationship prior to Alan, and for so long, like, God bless him, I'm not saying anything negative about him, but I wasn't actively consciously choosing that this was the best thing for me. And so often we fall prey to the appeasement of being in a relationship that is subpar, right? Like, how many raise your hand if you've been in a relationship that's subpar? Okay. Yeah. So like everyone's hands just went up. That gives me goosebumps, right? Like, we've all been there, you guys. Like, this is not new to any of us, but what is new is what we're trying to bring to light here. There's possibility that you can take action every single day in order to show up how you want without having to worry about all the people that want to try to constrict you into being someone else that you're not. And so what Taryn and I are really bringing to the forefront is the female perspective of really that concept that I love to talk about, which is relationship insurance. These are little systems, little choices that you can make every single day just to ensure that you are making sure that you have the best possible relationship ever. And trust me, like, I'm not just talking to the people that are in a relationship right now, who are happily married, here to try to improve. I'm talking to everyone who's single, who chose to be single because they're not willing to settle for anything less. Straight up.
Do I get to segue into some bids now? Okay,
Let's
great.
do it. Let's
Guys,
do it.
if you don't know John Gottman, and shout out to John Gottman if he's listening to this, let me work for you. I thought, who had his other book? I mean, he has plenty of books. Joanna. Joanna she's showing you one of his other books that Bianca recommended. He's fire. He's a relationship specialist. He studies relationships. If you don't know him, you should Google him. This book, in this book is some stuff. You should buy it. And I don't work for John Gottman, like I said, so this only benefits him. But in this book, John Gottman talks about bids. His most famous study is he can predict whether a relationship is going to succeed or fail with a 90% success rate, just by watching the couples for anywhere from like 5 to 10 minutes. And part of what he looks for is how the couple interacts with each other. It's all about bidding. So bidding is an action, verbal or nonverbal, that you take. So it could be a question, an invitation, a gesture, something that you're doing that indicates that you want to connect with your partner. So you can imagine you do these all day long. This applies to any type of relationship you're in, any communication partner you have. You're bidding for their attention. You're bidding to connect. And then what your communication partner does in response is really important. So let's think about, you are the person receiving the bid. You can turn towards your partner's bid. So what that looks like is you're engaged, you're actively listening, you're focused on them, you're enthusiastic. And that leads to more connection, more bidding, a more positive relationship. Or you could turn away from your partner. So that looks like you're ignoring them, you're kind of giving them a half response, you're not actively involving yourself in a conversation or a response to your partner. And then you could turn against your partner's bid. So that looks like you are critical, you respond with anger, you get defensive, and that results in less bidding. Your relationship is probably not going to be successful, but it's going to take a while to fail. I'm sure you've all had those relationships, because everyone raised their hands for having some tough relationships where it starts to build up, where every small thing becomes a big argument, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're always turning it against your partner's bid, even if it's a positive bid. So do yourself a favor and build the foundation and structure of your relationship with these positive bids. John Gottman says 5 positive bids for every 1 negative bid. Kevin and I try for 100 to 1, as many as you can get. Like, really, you are ensuring, you're building in the relationship insurance so that when you do have conflict, you can resolve it easily with love as a team. It's you against the problem, you and your partner against the problem, not you and your partner against each other, right? Use that for success. Build in the love and just appreciate each other. Does anybody need any examples of those?
I was just gonna say we should share some examples with our guys.
So
Tactics.
turning toward a bid, it could be, again, this can be used with any conversation partner, but I'll use Kevin as an example because I like him. If Kevin and I are in the car and he puts his hand on my knee and I put my hand on top of his and I look over at him and we smile at each other, he's made a bid for my attention with his gesture, and I have turned towards his bid by putting my hand on top of his and acknowledging him and being present with him. if we're in the car and he puts his hand on my knee and I'm looking at my phone and I don't do anything. I'm just continuing to look at my phone. That's turning away. Or if Kevin and I are in the car and he puts his hand on my knee and I take it off my knee, or I say, stop touching me, or, I don't like to be touched, or whatever my response in defense or criticism or anger is, that's turning against. Can you imagine what Kevin might think if I turned against his bid? He's probably never going to put his hand on my leg ever again. Mm-hmm. And it's just it's like a building block. A building block fell out of our structure.
Kevin be Jeffin. Kevin be Jeffin.
Taryn be Jeffin if I do that. You did the nice thing. I did the mean thing.
Right.
In this scenario, right? So, but the more, as the behavior analyst here, you're building reinforcement. You're reinforcing your partner for the things you like that they do. If you're meeting their bid with something positive, you're turning towards them, then they're going to keep doing it. And the bid could be verbal too. Kevin does the dishes. He's taking an action because he knows it's important to me. And I say, hey, I really loved that you did that. Thanks so much. We're appreciating each other. Build the foundation for your relationship. It's super important.
I love that, Taryn. And the fact, to bring it back to the check-in, that the guys put a link in, Al and I created a structure and a system that we've been using I crunched the numbers. I'm not a huge numbers gal, but I like them here and there. Over 14 times, babe. So that's over 14 weeks that we've been doing consecutive check-ins. Guys, when we first started, it was like 6 hours, right? We invested time into this relationship. But now we literally are so effective, it's unreal. But talking about Taryn's bid system, and which is so important, the structure, if you look at that PDF, it's set up on that bid system. You'll notice for each individual human need, and there's 7 of them in there by Alan and I, each one has 3 positives, what you did this week to contribute to a score of that particular need. And then there's 1 improvement, and that's the bids in action, because we want to, like Taryn said, positively reinforce the good behavior just from basic human psychology. If you're positively reinforcing the good behavior and just saying, this is just something you could improve, that's your choice. You're not necessarily just focusing on all the bad, which so many people tend to do, is focus on what you did wrong in the relationship, focus what wasn't right. And just that one shift, using this check-in system can really help you by using and leveraging that bid system towards your advantage every single week, or however long that you want to do that, which really ultimately helps, especially like Taryn said, when it comes to conflict resolution. You already have your numbers working in your favor, so that if there is a sting, it's not as tough to get back to center.
We have a question in the chat. What happens when you can't come to an agreement during a check-in?
Cool question, whoever that was.
Go ahead, first turn.
I don't know if we've ever not come to a resolution, because we just sit there until we do, even if it takes a long time and we don't like it.
I think we're good at sitting it out, and if you leave the room, it's okay to leave the room sometimes if you're in an elevated state, but I think it's good to sit and just be there and figure it out together.
Or if you have been in long-term relationships, there are going to be some things that you don't fundamentally agree about, and you might maybe agree to disagree in a nice way, and you come back to it later. Maybe it's not an emergency. You don't need to deal with it right now. You have a conversation about it, you discuss it. You're still not quite on the same page, and you come back to it later. But yeah, we kind of just sit and hang out until we figure it out.
My response to that question, really awesome question. Thank you so much for asking it, because there's a lot of disagreements sometimes with relationships. And my question to you would be, why. The one question that I believe matters the most is, why are you having a disagreement? Is it truly because you are misaligned in your perspectives, or is it because of an external reason where you're just not in a resourceful state, and therefore you literally don't have the conscious energy to be able to dedicate learning your partner's perspective on something? So for Alan and I, babe, I can't remember if we've ever come to a disagreement. Like, I don't know, but I'm sure there's definitely been times where we haven't seen eye to eye on something. And like Taryn and Kevin, either we've waited it out, but ultimately the intention of that disagreement wasn't to disagree, to like, be like this, butting heads, but it was ultimately to learn, okay, this is an opportunity to learn about my partner and what their perspective or what a shared experience we both had was. So if you can transition that into more of a learning opportunity, that will shed light as to truly why is there a disagreement. Maybe it's core values, maybe it's core beliefs, maybe it's a different perspective, and that's a learning opportunity that could either benefit you and towards reinvesting in that relationship, or it could be a beautiful opportunity that is kind of a red flag jumping out at you multiple times, where you just kind of need to check in with yourself.
And that's where, the conflict resolution statements come in handy. Shout out to Brene Brown for the story I'm telling myself.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Because you know what they say about assuming, right? Like, don't assume that your partner's trying to do something to make you mad, or don't even assume that they did something in the way that you think they did it. Their intention might have been completely different. And when you come from a place of wanting to understand why they did or said something, then it's A, probably going to be completely different than you thought, and B, you're going to feel great that you didn't come at them like a tornado and then come to find out they didn't really mean it in the way that it was perceived by you. So just be kind to your partner and to yourself.
True.
Babe, can we divulge our little disagreement we had the other day and how we resoluted? Is that a word? Conflict? How we conflict resoluted it?
It is now.
Sure. You can go for it. Sure.
I think you should do your perspective.
I don't even really remember. It's not.
Me
it
and
wasn't
Taryn.
important.
Never
It's
mind.
gone now.
Never
We
mind.
figured it out.
Never mind.
One thing I would say too is when you're falling deeply in love, and you are deeply in love, you can get triggered really easily when there's a disagreement. And because I think we tend to catastrophize, it's like, oh, well, what does this mean? And we future pace, and it's like, well, is this going to be a problem like way in the future? And all of a sudden it becomes this huge thing. And then you're in a very unresourceful state because you've focused on the negative. And I think that, sweetheart, whenever you and I, one or both of us got triggered, I think what we've very fortunately done a good job of, on one end, someone might shell up and suppress and not express anymore. On the other end, someone might pufferfish and overreact and have a temper. And I think what we've done a good job of, sweetheart, is we've never raised our voice to each other, but we've also never once not found a way to express the fear. And so what I would say is, if you do have a fear that gets triggered, and for me, vulnerability is a challenge. I've been insecure in moments, and I didn't want to tell her how afraid I was. Instead, I just wanted to say like, oh no, I'm just tired. No, I'm not tired. I'm sitting here thinking about all these fears that I want to be able to bring to you. And so one thing that I'll say, sweetheart, you've always been very, very loving toward me in those vulnerable moments. And for a man, that is so unbelievably critical. If you heal the little boy, the man will appear. I have been so made feel bad for my vulnerability in the past that I stopped being vulnerable. And so one thing that she's done is she's given love in those insecure moments, and I've tried to do the same. And I think that we've healed parts of ourselves through those challenging moments. Even if we felt like it was a disagreement, it was definitely like we're still in love. And also, we never broke space. We would always hold each other physically. Even in the most challenging moments, she would like hold me and she wouldn't let go, even if I was triggered. And I think that's absolutely critical.
That's such a beautiful point, babe. Honestly, you guys, one of my mantras is lead with love. If you're in a relationship And when I say in a relationship, I mean whether that's with another person or with consciously yourself. And yes, you can be in a relationship with yourself. I was in one prior to meeting Alan, according to Facebook.
Oh yeah. With the name. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you really just have to lead with love. Like Taryn said, like Alan said, like kindness is, it comes from within. And when you project that to someone, especially when they're being vulnerable or when there's fear present, I do two things. I call it, like, if there's fear in this challenge, one of Gabby said, going through those uncomfy moments are game changers. They truly are, because those are the hardest times. But if you can continue to muster up the courage to lead with love, to continuously step into those situations, because fear is just this big scary monster we all make up. Like Alan said, we catastrophize. Bianca and I talk about this all the time on our podcast. We catastrophize things so much because we're afraid of losing love. Ultimately, that's all we want at the end of the day. We're human beings. We want to connect. We're afraid of losing that so much that there's fear. And babe, you and I say it all the time. Like, if there's a fear present, which ultimately there is, in a disagreement or something, it's a fear of losing love. You either validate it or dissipate it. The only way you can validate a fear or dissipate it is by actually expressing it and by getting it out of you. Simple as that.
Alan, I'm glad that you brought up the physical contact aspect of being in conflict resolution, because that was something that I had a hard time with, because I'm a big flight girl. I like to run away. So Kevin would say, like, you stopped holding my hand, or you moved farther away from me. And oftentimes I didn't even notice I was doing it. And so we'd get reconnected and we would hold hands, or we would sit close to each other. And it makes such a difference when it kind of reinforces that it's you and your partner against the problem rather than the two of you against each other. So if you are in a relationship, or when you are in a relationship, make sure that you are doing that. You're touching your partner and physically connecting with your partner, even if you're upset, because you still love them, even if you're upset with them, right? Hopefully. So continue to touch them and, appreciate them, even when you are, not really liking them maybe in the moment.
That's so true. There's a couple of questions and comments I'm seeing come in that I want to acknowledge. As a single person, assuming is so hard, especially in the beginning of relationships. Yes, guys. Yes. Assumptions can be the death of any beautiful beginning. Straight up. And that's why we kind of pay. Assuming is taking data that you have available to you, but it's missing the data that's not available to you. And a lot of people nowadays, especially in the dating game, are only showing one side of themselves, and that's especially because of COVID, right? We're not necessarily running out and about. There's only the social media front that you're seeing. And so when it comes to the assumptions, be very careful about that. Intentions, you can start to see those the more you get closer to people. And like the guys have said on one of their podcasts, the more you spend time with someone, or the more you start to engage with someone, you do see their true colors. And so I want to encourage you, don't let that stop you from being who you are. If you just continue to be bubbly, or whatever version of yourself you feel most congruent and in alignment being, that will automatically set in the law of attraction. You have to become what you want to attract first. And that's something that I had to realize from the very beginning, prior to even meeting Alan. And as soon as I committed to that, literally Alan showed up in my DMs. But you understand someone's intentions as soon as you start to open up your heart to being and giving that receiving. But that's where I think the relationship standards come into play, where you have to also understand where to set down those boundaries when you do feel like, this is a little questionable. Because if it's questionable, get the heck out of the room. Your time, your life is not worth it. And neither is your love.
Next question.
Can I add, babe, can I just add quickly to assumptions?
Sure.
Just from the mindset standpoint, understand this. Your assumptions not only are based on lack of information versus the information you have, 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to run them through your filter of insecurities. right? So you're going to see what you pay attention to. If you assume the person's not interested, that delay in text message is going to mean they're not, versus like, look, I was at work, right? So always understand hyperconscious, right? That's what it is. Understand why you're thinking the way you are. A lot of it is probably because of past conditioning or your insecurities and fears.
And
So true.
this also comes down to expressing. So you've heard me say a million times, the suppression of self-expression leads to depression. If you aren't able to express your truth, the other person can't get rid of the assumptions.
Right.
So if I were to hold up, the dry erase marker, Kevin's over there, I'm over here. No matter how thin thank you, brother. So he can see one side of this, I can see the other side. There are actually two sides. Now imagine this wasn't a marker and it wasn't cylindrical and it was just this. I'm seeing a completely different thing than he's seeing. So if you really want to understand the truth, imagine this is the truth, you have to see it from a bunch of different perspectives. But the only way that happens is if Kevin has the courage to express himself and I have the emotional regulation to accept his expression and not overreact or make it wrong. And so I think that's what the check-ins really are, is figuring out what the truth is from both perspectives so that you can both move forward more effectively.
Babe, so beautiful. And just, I want to add to that emotional regulation part, you guys, we are human beings, right? Like, it wasn't a few hundred years ago, we were all like crawling around trying to figure out where food was. Now we just have it drop into our front doors by drones. We're still so run by our emotions. It's unbelievable. The guys talk about this, and we all, whether like whatever you identify, you have emotions. If you have a pulse, take 2 fingers and just kind of not jam it up right next to your throat underneath. You can feel your heartbeat. You guys, that means you have emotions, right? Emotions is energy in motion. If you're struggling to harness your emotions, it's going to be really challenging for you to be able to receive and understand those emotions that other people are having, right? And so, like Alan just mentioned, the emotional regulation that he's brought in our relationship has allowed for so much growth and so much opportunity for me to sit in my own insecurities, right? And for me to also feel comfortable actually expressing who I am to him without being sorry for it. Like, and that's also because of my own practice and my own every single day choice to understand and kind of like get myself out of the moment and look at myself. How am I reacting in a moment, because someone didn't text me back, or because they commented on my picture this way, or because, Alan said something to me in a way that seemed a little off, was, not traditional energy. How am I responding in that moment will dictate very much of how I'm going to move forward and have the perception of how we are experiencing an event together. So just also, I want to bring your attention to the emotional regularity of that. Is when it comes to actually checking in, that is a skill that's developed over time. So have compassion for yourselves, because we are human beings and we are not perfect.
Question: what are some of the guiding questions you personally ask each week during check-in? Do you want to go first, Emilia?
Oh yeah.
I mean, I know it's listed. They're in the chat, right?
Yeah, I can definitely go into them. So I think what's really fun to point out here. So like Taryn said at the beginning, this check-in has been building. It started off as just, the Tony Robbins inspiration of 6 basic human needs. We all have human needs, right? And Tony Robbins defined them. And those human needs are certainty and security, variety, significance, love and connection, growth, contribution. And then Alan and I like to put in a number 7, lucky 7, a little wild card, which we'll tell you about later. But the questions specifically are ones that we wanted to check in because we realized when we're in this relationship, the needs aren't just enough, guys. We're human beings and we have basic needs, but there's also way more of that because we're hyper conscious humans. And so our questions that we have, for example, one of them is very much illustrative of your self-suppression or, who you are as a person. So for example, for me, I have identified as a light, right? So I walk into a room and I feel like a light. I express myself. I'm a happy girl. I like to think so. And so one of those questions that he asks me is, have I ever have I ever dimmed your light this week? Or have I ever felt that he had dimmed my my light this week? AKA, has his actions ever suppressed me? And one of those questions that we made that way, and likewise with Alan, have I ever caged him? Have I ever made him feel caged? As a guy, it's very different, and so some of those questions are really important because it's uniquely catered to you. Another question is more of the catch-all question. So this is if anything is like kind of creeping up and bothering you, but you're like maybe not too proud of it, but yet you still want to bring it up because you want to, kind of come to terms. For example, for myself, it was a bath mat on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
That was bothering me. I wasn't too proud of it, but it bothered me. And so I mentioned it to him. And then
I used that the other day, Amelia. I
Did
told
you?
Kevin, I said, there's something that's bothering me that I wish wasn't bothering me, and here it is.
Yeah.
It was
And what's-
something small, but it's like,
Yeah.
I just want to jump in quickly. If we solve that, imagine the bath mat, right? And you have a why under that you eventually explained, which was it's an energetic loop.
Right.
So it's just like making the bed in the morning. If you like to make your bed, you like to come into a clean room. So going back to Taryn's bids, imagine this. Imagine Emilia, I never asked her that question. Is there anything about our relationship that you wish didn't bother you, but it still kind of does? I asked that question. She says, okay, let me think about that. She thinks, she digs. You know what? Honestly, it does kind of bother me when you don't put the bath mat back up after you shower. Okay. We took one thing that could have been a negative bid forever and we got rid of it once. So we took one negative bid conversation where it was a challenging conversation briefly. It wasn't really that bad.
I was scared, just saying, like just that little insecurity. Like I was scared, guys, like it's a bath mat, Emilia, get over yourself. But it's like, guys, but I'm a little psycho in certain areas. It's like we all have whys underneath that. And it's honestly, it boils down to safety. So
that's why the questions are so important, because it gave her permission, even though you wish it didn't bother you. Yeah. But it still kind of does. It gave her permission to bring that to me, whereas that could have gone under the radar for 20 years, right? Where I just never knew that bugged her. Those are negative bids that are stacking up that I would have never known about. So the check-ins are really to bring to the surface that which is really happening below the surface so that you can be more effective as a team. And we also mentioned in the beginning, we can agree to disagree if we want to, because I said I would do anything for you, but I can't go outside of alignment with my highest self. So if there was anything that she ever requested or wanted that was outside of alignment with my highest self, I would have to say, sweetheart, I can't go outside of integrity, my highest self. Everything else, I'm game. The bath mat, of course, like I've Jeffed it a few times since then, right? But I try my best. I'm probably 2/3, right? I'm doing not bad.
Babe, you're great. You're doing great.
That's Hall of Fame numbers.
You're doing great.
Right? But Taryn and Kevin also have questions that they ask every single night. If you want to hammer those as well.
Yeah, sure. So we have weekly check-in questions, but we also check in every night and we ask each other, did you feel loved today? Did you feel appreciated today? Did you feel supported today? And Kevin, what's the fourth one?
There's listen to.
Yeah, listen to, and did you feel romance today? So sorry, I was wrong. We have 5. And so, and we keep adding, and then we also do our nightly gratitudes, which I'm sure you guys have heard Alan and Kevin both talk about. So, and then for weekly, we have a similar system to Alan and Emilia, but we do, what's something you did this week that I love? What's something you did this week that I didn't love? Just so bring up those little things like the bath mat. What do you need to see more of from me? And then what can we do to better understand each other? So those have been really great. Like they're great conversation sparks. They really bring up some of the underlying stuff that you might never talk about for 20 years, like Alan said. But I would love to jump on the gratitude train real quick, because gratitude is the attitude, guys, for real.
We just have a question really quick. Can I just ask it?
Sure.
Okay. Have you ever heard an answer that you can't get past, or take to defensively?
Sure, but it's probably that I didn't understand it. And then sometimes you're going to hear stuff that you don't like about yourself.
Would you be willing to provide an example?
Kevin told me the other day, he was like, you spend too much time on your phone. And I was like, God darn it. You're right. You're right. I really don't like it. And I like hanging out on Facebook, but you're right, you know, and like, I can do better with that. But again, I think maybe it's practice of like hearing stuff. I think you have to like get used to, if you're setting up a time to check in and talk, like, you know, you're going to hear stuff that you might not like. And either you're committed to fixing it for your partner so you can have a great relationship, or like if your partner said it not in a nice way, you could ask them to rephrase or reframe or explain why they said the thing that they said. I would just say, like, don't either like ask them to say it a different way or like sit with it for a minute. You know, I don't know if Emilia has anything she wants to add to that.
Yeah, I was going to say the discomfort is where all the learning is, guys, you know, like, and the more you learn, the more you grow. And so when there is really discomforting moments when in a relationship, you know, like I said, whether that's with yourself because someone gave you feedback, or your perspective of your partner, it's really important to sit in those challenging moments. I found that most of my growth has come from the courage to step into those challenging moments instead of running away from them. So many people run away from their pain, and I have done that way too much in my life. And I committed to myself, just stop doing that, because it doesn't help you grow and it doesn't help you show up as the human being that I truly want to be and become, and lead by example as. And as Bianca says in here, defensiveness is the ego. Ego, guys, we all have it, especially, you know, we talk about masculine and feminine energy, and everyone has an ego. I don't care who you are. Like I said, if you have emotions, you also have ego. And that is, it can be the death of your relationship and ultimately what is preventing you from getting a relationship, honestly, if you want to be in one as well.
5-minute warning. Just going to throw it out there as the timekeeper. Just going to throw it out there.
Love it.
Keeper of time.
That's what I do.
So, what?
I just wanted
something?
grand perspective here real quick, and then I'm going to give it to you guys for literally the rest of the time. But I want to make sure everyone walks away with the tangible systems. So from my sense of awareness,
tactics.
Yeah, got to. So from my sense of awareness, Taryn and Kevin have a couple things running. Number one, gratitudes every night. Gratitudes every night is a habit. When you are consciously practicing looking for what's good, it will change your relationship more than anything else you can do. It is we have never missed from the moment we started doing it, sweetheart. We've never missed, and we never will, because we're training. Yeah, right. Literally, like the phone falling on your face late at night. We send each other a voice memo every single night about what we are grateful for that day. I know Kevin and Taryn had that before Emilia and I even met. So that's one thing that both of us as couples are doing. They have nightly questions that they already went through. They also have a weekly check-in. So imagine a relationship where every single night you reflect on the day and you say, what am I most grateful for about my partner today? Every little thing. Little things matter so much. Okay. And you ask questions every single night. Emilia and I tend to ask each other questions constantly. They have a structure that I think is honestly great. Okay. And then every week you reflect on the week and you come together and you talk about it. So those are kind of the three main buckets here to leave with. In your next relationship, if you're in a growth-oriented relationship, they're going to be open to trying new things. Again, imagine every night gratitudes, every night questions to your partner just to uncover the truth and understand them at a deeper level. And then every single week you reflect on the week and come up with improvements under each need. And that's really the three main buckets here that I want you to take away. And again, there's a PDF, and you can reach out to any of us at any time with questions about this stuff. But I just wanted to make sure we gave the bird's eye view as well, because we have gone, in all these different directions, which is great. Because thank you so much for the engagement.
And start small too. You don't have to do all this. Like, start with one question, start with one gratitude, start small. It doesn't have to be all this at once.
Yeah, literally. It starts small, guys. And just to reiterate that, like, I want to, Bianca's thrown out mention the standards list. Guys, have your standards for yourself too. It's important to have gratitude, but it's also important to get real with your relationships. I use acronyms because I am challenged, not always, but I have memory challenge here and there. And get real stands for be responsible for who you engage with, who you invest your time with, who you allow into your heart. For me as a woman, it's been the most challenging thing to come to terms with understanding who's actually going to protect your heart. It are those people who truly love you. Not everyone wants to do that, and that's not everyone's priority. Be explicit, the E in the real. Be explicit about your needs, what you want, what you like, what you don't like, and have the courage to step into that, because being explicit, scariest part for me to be, because I'm afraid of how it might make someone else feel. But if you're not explicit about what you need in a relationship or out of one, it's going to be really hard to attract that which you want to have in your life. Take action, actually show up, commit to yourself, and take action towards what you want to have in a dream relationship, or just how you want to show up in the world as yourself. And L stands for listen. Listen to your body, listen to your intuition. Your body literally will respond either like this or like this, expand or contract when it comes to different conversations, interactions, and experiences that you have with people. So that's one thing, thanks B for mentioning, that is really important that I want to give away to other people.
To add on to that, for the single Pringles who are doing this standards checklist and really diving deep into that, do yourself a favor. I saw this on Facebook and it was like just the perfect sum up of exactly what I think you should do. Do yourself a favor and take mixed signals as a no and move on.
Yes.
It's time to go. If someone's giving you mixed signals, it's time to go. And the other thing is, have the tough conversations early. Don't wait until you're a year in and you guys are committed to decide, oh, I want to live in a cabin in the middle of nowhere and the other person wants to live on the beach. Like, I told Kevin when we started dating, I said, listen, Kev, I want to live in Massachusetts for the rest of my life. My family's here, I'm not moving. I said, if you're, that's important to me. And if you think, or if you're thinking about like living elsewhere, then we should have a serious conversation about it, because I don't see myself changing my mind. But just be intentional about the types of relationships, just like Emilia said, like be intentional about what you're doing. And just to backtrack real quick to gratitude. If you are not grateful for the relationship that you're in, why are you in it? And if you are grateful for the person that you're with, then you should be telling them regularly. And not only telling them, but tell other people too. Because just like Alan said, the more, it's a habit. The more that you talk about how grateful you are for your partner and be specific about it, the more grateful you're actually going to feel. It's like when you are sad and you smile, it's like brings all of the happy feelings and you actually feel better. Just be grateful for what you have. I'm sure that you guys have all experienced being with your friends, and your friends start like saying, oh, my partner did this and they're this and that, and then like you kind of just feel yucky. Like maybe you say something about your partner, or even if everyone's just talking about their partner negatively, then you go home and it doesn't feel good. So it's weird. A lot of people don't talk about their partners positively, but be the one to express how grateful you are for your partner to other people and to them.
Not also your partner too, but for yourself. Self-gratitude is really important. That inner work is what I want to bring to the table as well. For those of you who are single, be grateful for who you are, for who you have been, and for where you are going, because you need to be grateful. And in gratitude, like Taryn said, it is a gift. But if you buy a gift and you never give it to anyone, what does that gift do? Like, it doesn't do anything. So express it, and express it with passion, because everyone deserves to be grateful and everyone deserves to give yourself gratitude. So continue to lead with that every single day. I start and end my day in gratitude. It's part of my spiritual practice, and it's actually ritual, not a habit, because I connect it with my spiritual self. So I'm so grateful. I know we're wrapping up, but thank you guys so much. I hope we get to do this again. Taryn, this was awesome. Like, I'm so proud of us.
Me too. You're so wonderful. What a wonderful co-host.
As are you,
You
right?
guys,
Applaud host.
this was an easy one for us.
This was really enjoyable.
You guys are amazing, and I appreciate you jumping on here and sharing stories about your own personal stuff, about our stuff. And again, guys, start small. Like Taryn and I have been dating for over a year. We are leveling up as we go. We're leveling up as we go. It didn't start like this, and none of it does, right? We didn't start with 400 episodes either. You're starting somewhere. Start where you are. It's better to start now than to wait. Perfect will never exist.
Yeah, this has been unbelievable. Thank you so much for coming. Everyone who attended, thank you so much, Emilia and Taryn. You two are absolutely wonderful. We would not be the men we are today without them by our side, not behind us, by our side. And honestly, the last thing I'll say is personal development. You bring you to every relationship in your life. And if you develop yourself and self-esteem, you'll have standards. And you'll no longer tolerate mediocre people, places, things, and ideas in your life. I could never have attracted someone as wonderful as Emilia in my past, not because I was a bad person, but because I was underdeveloped and I was making bad choices.
Likewise,
You are accountable for every relationship in your life because you're attracting that to you by the choices you're making. And hopefully the podcast can help you develop.
Fire. Taryn, Emilia, anything in closing quickly? No.
Thanks, guys.
10-second
for
clip.
being here.
I would say it starts from within, you guys. Emanate what you wish to attract.
Reinforce your partner. Let them know what you like and what you don't like, and tell them you appreciate them.
Fire.
You guys
Amy,
are the best.
Amy,
Thank you guys so
Amy and
much.
Tiff, let's play it out here. Whew.
Okay. First of all, Emilia, Taryn, you guys were absolutely incredible. This was the best mastermind ever. If you guys have not joined Hyperconscious Nation on Facebook, join that. Also, make sure that you put your Instagram handles in the chat. I'll put all of ours in the chat again so you guys can all connect with each other and network and everything else.
Thanks, Aim.
Of course.
Thank you all so much for coming. And next week, what are we doing next week? Did you just say that? I apologize. Next week, no, Amy didn't know because we just decided today.
What did we decide? Oh, the top 10 takeaways from 430 episodes of the Hyperconscious podcast. We've interviewed some of the best people in the world, and we're going to share with you the top 10 takeaways. So you don't have to listen to all the episodes, even though you still should.
And that starts next week. Thank you all so much. Please reach out on Instagram. Please connect with each other. It makes me so excited. I told Kevin earlier, like the fact that we were able to provide a room for Taryn and Emilia to express their truth to you guys and that you guys can come and network means the absolute world. I love seeing people grow outside of us as well.
Reach out to Amelia and I too, if you have questions.
Right on.
We would
All right,
love to
squad.
help you. Thank you guys so
Love
much.
you all.
All the
and
love.
Thank you.
Talk to you all soon.
Bye.
Bye, guys.